In a world where global crises can erupt overnight, the ability to spot the early warning signs of societal or geopolitical collapse is more valuable than ever. This video breaks down the hidden indicators, economic, political, and social, that experts watch to predict when stability is about to shatter. With the stakes higher than ever, understanding these signals isn't just for analysts or leaders, it's for anyone who wants to stay ahead of the curve. Today we'll reveal how to read the world's fault lines before the ground gives way. Our goal is to arm you with the analytical tools and real-world examples needed to recognize the subtle shifts that precede collapse. We'll explore the decisions made in minutes that will change decades, and why the world might be closer to midnight than most realize. By the end, you'll know how to spot the cracks before chaos erupts. What if you could see the next crisis coming, while everyone else is still asleep at the wheel? Collapse isn't just a word for history books or disaster movies. In geopolitics, it means the sudden breakdown of a nation's ability to govern, protect, or provide for its people. Economically, it's the moment when markets freeze, currencies plummet, and livelihoods vanish overnight. Socially, it's when trust evaporates, institutions fail, and chaos fills the vacuum. These aren't abstract threats, they're real turning points that can redraw borders, topple governments, and change the course of millions of lives. The stakes are stark: peace versus chaos, control versus collapse. Early detection isn't about paranoia, it's about preparation. Spotting the signs before the world catches on can mean the difference between being swept away by events or steering through the storm. So, how do you read the warning lights before the sirens start blaring? History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Can you hear the echoes before the storm? Every major collapse leaves behind a trail of warning signs, often ignored until it's too late. Take the fall of Rome. Centuries before the empire crumbled, there were clear signals: corrupt leadership, economic strain, and a military stretched too thin. Fast forward to the Soviet Union, where empty shelves, rising dissent, and a failing war in Afghanistan signaled a system on the brink. Even in recent memory, the 2008 financial crisis didn't come out of nowhere. Subprime mortgages, skyrocketing debt, and regulatory blind spots were all flashing red, but most chose to look away. These collapses weren't sudden. They were slow-motion disasters, visible to those willing to connect the dots. The lesson? Early warning signs are always there, hidden in plain sight. The challenge is recognizing them before they become headlines and before the world is forced to reckon with the consequences. While the headlines focus on noise, these are the signals that whisper collapse. Experts know that the most reliable early warning signs aren't always front-page news. They read subtle shifts that hint at deeper trouble beneath the surface. First, sudden leadership purges. When top officials or military leaders are abruptly removed, it often signals internal power struggles or panic at the highest levels. These purges can destabilize entire governments and are rarely just about corruption or reform. Second, currency instability. Watch for wild swings in exchange rates, rapid inflation, or sudden restrictions on withdrawals. When a nation's currency loses trust, it is a sign that confidence in the system is evaporating, and that can trigger a cascade of economic and social crises. Third, mass migration or brain drain. When the educated, skilled, or wealthy start leaving in droves, it's a vote of no confidence in the future. This exodus drains a country's potential and often precedes deeper turmoil. Fourth, information blackouts. Internet shutdowns, media crackdowns, or sudden censorship are red flags that authorities are trying to hide instability or unrest. Finally, unusual military movements. Troop deployments, snap exercises, or unexplained mobilizations often signal that leaders are bracing for internal or external shocks. Spot these 5, and you're already ahead of the curve. What if the signs were there all along, and almost everyone missed them? The 2022 Sri Lanka crisis is a textbook example of collapse hiding in plain sight. Months before the headlines, the warning indicators were flashing. Currency instability was rampant, with the Sri Lankan rupee plummeting and foreign reserves evaporating. Mass migration began quietly, as professionals and students sought opportunities abroad. Leadership purges followed, with key ministers resigning or being forced out amid mounting public anger. Meanwhile, the government imposed rolling blackouts and restricted access to social media, classic information blackouts designed to control the narrative. As protests swelled and the military was deployed to the streets, the world finally took notice. But for those watching the early signals, the unraveling was already underway. Sri Lanka's crisis wasn't a sudden shock. It was a slow-motion collapse visible to anyone who knew where and how to look. When those in power say, "Everything is fine," it's time to look closer. Throughout history, governments and elites have often gone to great lengths to mask or downplay the warning signs of collapse. Official statements, manipulated statistics, and state-controlled media can create a false sense of stability, lulling the public into complacency. In Sri Lanka, leaders insisted the economy was stable even as reserves vanished and shelves emptied. The same pattern repeats worldwide. Denial buys time for those at the top, but it leaves ordinary people unprepared for what's coming. To cut through the noise, look for independent data, eyewitness accounts, and patterns that don't fit the official narrative. The truth is rarely found in the headlines. It's hidden between the lines. You don't need a security clearance to see what's coming, just the right toolkit. Start by tracking open-source intelligence. Follow independent journalists, local news outlets, and global crisis monitors on social media. These sources often spot disruptions before they hit mainstream headlines. Next, keep an eye on key economic indicators, currency exchange rates, inflation data, and central bank reserves. Sudden changes here can signal deeper instability. Add in migration trends and internet blackouts. Spikes in visa applications or abrupt communication shutdowns are classic red flags. To tie it all together, build your own collapse dashboard, a simple spreadsheet or app where you log these signals over time. Patterns will emerge, and you'll start to see the difference between normal turbulence and genuine warning signs. By combining diverse sources and tracking trends, you can spot the cracks before they become chasms. In a world of uncertainty, information is your best defense. Collapse isn't the end, if you're ready before the rest. Once the warning signs appear, preparation becomes your greatest asset. For individuals, this means diversifying income, building emergency savings, and strengthening local support networks. Communities that invest in resilience, like local food production, mutual aid, and reliable communication, can weather shocks far better than those that rely solely on distant authorities. Even nations can adapt by decentralizing power, fostering transparency, and encouraging innovation. The key is to act early, not after the crisis hits. Those who recognize the signs and prepare in advance don't just survive, they often emerge stronger, more adaptable, and better equipped for whatever comes next. In times of upheaval, foresight is power. In a world on the edge, the difference between chaos and control is seeing what others refuse to see. Vigilance and critical thinking aren't just skills, they're survival tools. By learning to spot the early warning signs of collapse, you put yourself ahead of the curve, ready to act while others are still in denial. Stay informed, question official narratives, and trust the patterns you observe. The future belongs to those who prepare, not just react. Remember, the next crisis won't announce itself. But if you know where to look, you'll never be caught off guard. Stay sharp, stay ready. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights.